Back in the late 2000s, I was in my early 20s, living in Berlin as a broke expat. I had been there for a couple of years, trying to make a life in a city that felt alive with culture, history, and mystery. I had a few roommates, mostly other expats, and we were getting by, having fun despite our tight budgets. Life was good, simple, and yet, I never could have imagined how one seemingly normal night would change the way I viewed safety, trust, and intuition. It was late October, maybe early November, when it happened. I had just finished watching a local band play at a small venue. The air was crisp and cool, but still pleasant enough to walk around outside without a jacket. My roommate, who was from the UK, and I had spent the evening laughing, enjoying ourselves, and letting loose. It was just after midnight, maybe 1 a.m., and we were making our way back to our apartment, heading toward a subway station not too far from where we had been. The city was quieter than usual, but it wasn't completely still. There were a few late-night strollers, the occasional taxi driving past, and some distant chatter. It wasn't an uncomfortable quiet, but more of a peaceful lull after the chaos of a busy night. The streets we walked down were lit by yellow streetlights, casting long shadows on the wet pavement. The autumn breeze rustled the leaves in the trees, and I couldn't help but appreciate the peaceful moment as we strolled arm in arm, tipsy but not too drunk. We were speaking in English, laughing about nothing in particular, when I first noticed her, a figure moving ahead of us on the same sidewalk. It was hard to make out at first, the fog of mist swirling around her, but as we got closer, I could see that it was a woman. At least, she looked like one. She was older, hunched over, and appeared to be struggling as she limped along. The way she dragged her leg made me uneasy, but I chalked it up to the fact that she was likely an elderly lady. My roommate seemed to notice her too, but she didn't say anything. The woman was alone, and she seemed to be struggling. As we walked closer, I heard her voice, a strange cry that made my stomach churn. "Oh, help! Won't somebody help me?" Her voice wasn't weak or panicked. It was demanding, almost as if she was entitled to our help. There was no sense of fear or urgency in her voice, just an expectation that we would offer assistance. At that moment, my instinct to be polite kicked in. I slowed my pace and asked, "What's the matter? Do you need help?" She responded immediately, her accent thick but her words clear. "It's my leg. Help me carry the bags. I live just over there." She gestured toward a nearby apartment building, not too far from where we stood. The street was empty, the only sounds the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the city. I hesitated for a brief moment, my roommate still walking beside me, but the woman's desperate tone nudged me into action. She was an elderly lady, after all, and despite the bizarre situation, I felt compelled to help. My roommate seemed less enthusiastic, but she reluctantly agreed to assist. We each took one of the woman's bags, the weight of them surprising me. They were heavy, and it took some effort to carry them as we walked toward the building. As we neared it, I couldn't help but notice how strange the situation felt. The building itself was old and worn, the hallway dimly lit by a flickering bulb. The air smelled of stale smoke, and the dim yellow lights made everything feel colder than it should have been. When we reached the door, it was slightly ajar, which was odd. In Berlin, most buildings, especially ones this old, were secured tightly at night, but the woman pushed it open without effort, almost as if she were much stronger than she had appeared moments before. She motioned for me to go in first, which was unusual, but I didn't question it. After all, I was just trying to be helpful. Just up the stairs, she said, her voice soft but insistent. Just up the stairs. I froze for a second. The hallway was narrow and dark, and the stairs creaked underfoot as I took my first step inside. There was an apartment at the top of the stairs, its door slightly ajar. The air felt thick with the smell of musty smoke and something else. A heavy, oppressive feeling I couldn't shake. It was the kind of building you'd expect to find in a ghost story, not in the heart of a city like Berlin. The woman's voice grew urgent as she beckoned me up the stairs. "Hurry now," she whispered, her words almost a command. "Hurry up the stairs." I stood there for a moment, staring at the staircase, my mind racing. Something was off. Every instinct in my body was telling me that this wasn't right. I wanted to turn and leave, but there was something about her presence that kept me rooted to the spot. Her face, now fully visible under the dim light, had a strange, unsettling quality to it. It was the face of a character from a fair, a crone straight out of a twisted German myth. Her skin was pale and wrinkled, her eyes cold and hollow. She wore dark woolen clothing and a hood that shadowed her face, adding to the eerie impression she gave off. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My mind screamed at me to get out of there, but I couldn't move. It was as if I was under some kind of spell. I stood at the threshold, looking back at the dimly lit street outside, trying to calm my racing heart. Was I just being paranoid? But then, as if my thoughts were being heard, my roommate snapped me out of my trance. "No," she said sharply, her voice loud and clear. "Oh, hell no." Before I could react, she grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the doorway, dragging me down the stairs and across the street as fast as she could. The old woman's voice followed us, now laced with frustration and anger. "You leave now, you'll regret it," she yelled after us. But we didn't stop. We ran, my heart pounding, my mind still trying to process what had just happened. We made it to the subway station, both of us breathing heavily, our minds racing. My roommate was the first to speak. "Did you see it?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Did you notice how her limp appeared out of nowhere? It wasn't there when we first saw her. And that apartment, I swear there was someone else waiting for us at the top of those stairs. A man, probably her son. A creepy son." We sat in silence for a few moments, processing what had just happened. Looking back, I don't know what would have happened if we had gone up those stairs, but I've always been grateful for my roommate's instincts. We had narrowly escaped something I can't quite explain, but the memory of that night has haunted me ever since. A chilling reminder that sometimes our instincts are the only things keeping us safe.